Oh, here it is. Right, so first of all, I had no idea that Die Hard was originally a novel. I had no idea that it was based on a book, but also that Frank Sinatra had played this John McClane character. So John McClane, the character, was in other books in this same series, and he played John McClane before, decades earlier. So when they came to make Die Hard, Frank Sinatra had first refusal on playing John McClane. That's mad.
Okay.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Cinemas, magical buildings that allow us to immerse ourselves into countless curious worlds, to explore lives that we might not ever get an opportunity to experience for ourselves, or to help us understand our own lives just that little bit more. But for so many of us, the cinema is more than just a building. It's a place that molds us, inspires us, and sometimes even changes us when we least expect. And we've missed them a lot. But now the cinema is back. So come with me now as I, Perry J. O'Halloran, take you inside some of this country's greatest independent cinemas to explore their stories, their secrets, and more than just a few of our favourite things. Because if you think that you've missed the cinema, just wait till you see how much the cinema has missed you.
Built in 1906, this gorgeous little building in the West London village of Barnes is not only a cinema, but it's the birthplace of bona fide rock history. Let's get some answers.
So what's your role here at the Olympic Cinema?
So I'm the cinema manager, so I look over all the box office and cinema screen team and just make sure that everything's running as smoothly as it possibly can do, really.
The cinema is one side of it, but there's other things that go on here at the Olympics.
Yes, so we've got the box office down here, which is sort of the control centre for all things cinema, inquiries coming in right at this moment. Then upstairs we've got our sweet shop in the lobby just there.
Nice.
We've got our 2 public screens, so upstairs is screen 1, and then through there we've got screen 2, which is our smaller grey one. And then down at the very bottom, we've also got a private member screening room.
Okay.
So if you're lucky, you might get a chance to see all 3 today.
Well, I feel like a lucky man, Tom. And if I... Hold up, what's that incredible smell?
So we have a kitchen on site, so we prepare everything here, whether it's the ice cream, the pastries, teas, coffees, everything is made on site in our own kitchen, which we're really proud of. What we do have is a lovely terrace with a couple of beautiful trees over the top as well. So then very soon that will come back inside as well. So there'll be hustle and bustle going on in the cafe and the members club up on the first floor. The building is always busy, all aspects really, morning till night. Anything that you could want, food, drink, a trip to the cinema, all your bases are covered here at the Olympic.
So when you come to the Olympic, it's more than just a trip to the cinema.
It's more than just a trip to the cinema. It's a whole day out.
Well, the first thing I'm really excited to maybe take a look at is the projection room. Do you think we could take a look?
Yeah, absolutely. If you just want to follow me up the stairs.
More than happy to, Tom. More than happy to.
Now, you'll know just by looking at me that I'm easily distracted. And right on cue...
Membership at the Olympic Cinema. Anybody can become a member, is that right?
Anybody can fill out an application form and become a member, 100%. We've got 2 different versions of membership. We've got film club membership, which really covers the cinema side of things. So that gets you, all the standard cinema membership perks like advanced priority booking, discount on tickets, discount on a private hire, all that good cinema goodness. And then also we have up here our lovely members club, which includes all the cinema benefits, plus use of the club room. And then we also have a variety of events as well that take place in the club and upstairs in the music room, which are exclusive to members, and they're quite good fun.
You could meet with other friends, you could maybe sit and do some work.
Yeah, absolutely. The club's really popular with people coming in the morning, do a little bit of laptop work, maybe have a business meeting over lunch, and then pop home and then come back and watch a film in the evening. It's a whole day.
And the style of it all is just so nice, and it just feels so traditional and very kind of cinematic, but also very kind of plush and exclusive.
Yeah, I mean, the design aesthetic is quite important to us, so we do try and make sure that everything is looking as best it can.
And I also see over here you've got the sweet shop.
Yes, which is where customers can pick up all their goodies before cinema, whether that be homemade ice cream, popcorn, teas, coffees. We also serve alcohol and soft drinks, so pretty much all the bases are covered.
I don't think Tom knows about second breakfast, because he's making me hungry. Let's get back on track.
So here it is, the heart of the Olympic cinema, the projection room.
Yes, so this is, I guess, where the magic happens. That feels like what you're supposed to say at this point, doesn't it? So yeah, so this is Screen 1 projection, and this is where all the kit that drives Screen 1 lives. So whether it be the uninterruptible power supply, the lighting rig. Here we've got the actual AV equipment for the cinema itself. So we've got full Dolby Atmos system here. And then down on the plinth just there, we've got our brand new 4K laser projector, which is a nice new addition to the room. But obviously, given that we've installed a schwanky new projector in here, we've also had to make sure that the air conditioning is up to snuff. So apologies if it's a bit chilly in here, but it's important that everything in here stays nice and cool.
Well, I'm definitely finding that in most projection rooms there is a little bit of noise, almost entirely attributed to the digital film projectors because they have the fans inside them and things like that. But it's nice and cool in here, and it's usually quite hot in a projection room.
Yeah, it's like a little cocoon, really. It's quite nice to come up in here, especially when a film's running and you've got a full auditorium, and just peek out through the porthole and just see the backs of everyone's heads. It's quite a special experience, that.
So the Olympic cinema is a fully digital cinema?
Yes, that's right. So we've moved over entirely to digital systems. When the building was set up 8 years ago, film wasn't really an option for a newly opening cinema. So our systems are fully digital here.
And that hasn't put any kind of stopper in the content that you want to show?
No, not at all. I mean, the number of features that get mastered to film these days, you could probably count them on the fingers of one hand. Digital isn't a roadblock to us at all. In fact, it means that we can get content delivered very quickly. It's usually pretty reliable. We don't have to necessarily be here to pick up a drive if it's coming in at 3 o'clock in the morning from America, or even like rush edits. We sometimes get stuff sent over from Soho or from LA, and it comes in, 2 hours before the screening, if we're doing a private hire.
So how do you receive films? Are they used to appear, when we're working with film, it would appear in several canisters and be pieced together to make the film. How does it arrive now?
So these days, it's slightly more boring, I'm afraid. It does just come on a hard drive, which we then slot into our system and copy across to our projector server. Either that, or we've got a really high-speed internet connection here, so it downloads directly from the studio themselves. They just push the file over, and then we hit play. It's a little bit more straightforward than it was with loading in and splicing film.
You just ring them up, say, hey, can we want to show that? Yeah, it's fine, we'll just flick the switch.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty good in terms of like 24-hour support. So yeah, pretty much round the clock you can make a phone call, and pretty soon you can be playing a film.
There are plenty of stories from way back when, not naming any names, but some projectionists, they might steal a frame or two from the celluloid before sticking it back together and sending it back. I suppose the modern day equivalent now would be potentially people copying films or pirating films. How has digital film delivery worked its way around that?
I mean, they created a pretty secure chain of that because they thought about that in advance from the film days, and also from, I think, music piracy in the early days. So before they even launched digital cinema, they had thought, how are we going to stop people from nicking our films? And so it's a very secure chain. You need two parts to actually play a film. You need the film file itself and a key to unlock it. And the keys are all licensed on an individual basis to the cinema screen and to the cinema site. So if we got a drive that was supposed to be delivered for another cinema delivered here, yes, we could load it into the system, but we couldn't actually press play until we'd had it authorized externally. So it is a very secure system, nose to tail.
And that's only going to get more and more enhanced.
Oh yeah, I would have thought so.
So the future of digital cinema is looking bright.
Yeah, it looks pretty positive, and it's a nice clear picture.
Ah, nice one, Tommy. I'm having that one. Right, I suppose all that's left to see now is the main event.
Well, Tom, I'm impressed. I've seen your projection room, but now what I'd really love to see is your main auditorium. Can we have a look?
Yeah, well, fortunately, it's just through here, so let's go and have a wander.
Lead the way, Tom. Okay, looks like a nice little screen. Oh, I was expecting something bigger.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit more expansive if you switch the lights on.
Whoa.
I think that's the reaction most people have when they come in. Screen 1 here at the Olympic, there is definitely that oh wow moment, which is sort of what we're going for really. So I'm glad that you feel that way.
Classic cinema red. This is a cinema.
Yeah.
And what a cinema this is.
Whilst the Olympic has only been open for, in its current guise, for 8 years, so they opened in 2013, it does really feel very established in the community in that way, partly through our membership, and a lot of the members live within 1 or 2 miles and so walk here most of the time. And so, yeah, it's got that really lovely sense of an ownership and being like a community hub in that way, which is really quite special, actually.
It's a beautiful community.
Yeah, I mean, Barnes is like a lovely location. It does have that sort of villagey feel. It does feel like a little isolated little pocket of London, which is really lovely. And yeah, it's quite nice to look at.
So you've got 2 screens.
Yes.
We're sitting in beautiful screen 1 right now.
The big red one is on that corner.
Right, yeah, and it's lovely. It's a lovely shade of red. Is there anything significant about the colour?
You sort of tend to think of cinema and think of theatres, and for me, the colour that springs to mind immediately is red.
The red velvet seats.
Yeah,
and
it can become a cliche, but I think it's done really well in here, especially with the seats that we sourced all the way from Norway. So they've travelled internationally, and just getting the felting right. That's one of the things that we had redone in the lockdown, is we had the walls all refelted, and the new balcony put in at the back. So it is quite sort of whizzy now. It's really come together quite nicely.
And how many seats do we have in screen 1?
So this one seats 136.
36, and then in screen 2?
Screen 2, 73.
And
there is a screening room downstairs in the basement, which seats 17, which is, yeah, it's small but perfectly formed, we like to say.
And quite exclusive.
Yes. Yeah, so we use it for a mixture of private hires happen down there. It's a really good space for, birthday parties, celebratory dinner. We had a proposal take place in there last year.
Oh.
Somebody had told their other half that they were going to come and watch their favourite film. And then the film that they had actually prepared was like a little video proposal, which was really lovely.
It's a great ruse.
Yeah, so we do all sorts of things down there. And then also down there, we have a dedicated stream of programming, which is just for members. The stuff that tends to be more difficult to get up on the big screens. So it's more art house, it's more documentary, it's more world cinema.
Can you remember the first time that you saw a film and it was just the magic hit you and you thought, this is for me?
Ooh, this is racking my brains a little bit now, but I think the first film that I have a memory specifically of going to see in the cinema, I think would have been the original Lion King. So I think we're talking about 1994, 1995, something like that. And I have a feeling that my grandparents took me to the cinema, and that was probably, chances are, it would have been what was at the time the Odeon in Esher, which is now an Everyman. But it is a really beautiful 1930s cinema. The wildebeest stampede moment in Lion King really sort of is seared into my memory as like a formative cinematic experience.
Classic. I remember seeing that on the big screen myself. And it's funny that you should mention that The Lion King was your first. So it wasn't your first film that you saw.
It was probably the first sort of trip to the cinema that I can call to mind.
There seems to be a trend. When I ask this question of people, it's usually a Disney film that really sparked their, wow, what is this that I'm seeing? What's this fascination? And Disney films are just such colourful, rich, vibrant worlds that they're really hard to kind of, wash from your memory as soon as you've seen it, because plenty of us maybe saw, a family action film or something like that, but it's usually a Disney film for a lot of people that really made them go, I need to be closer to this cinema thing, this film thing. What is this? It's magical.
Yeah, I think that especially that era post, sort of Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Disney really found a rhythm with their hand-drawn animation. And so, yeah, there was just a great run there that lined up quite neatly with my formative childhood years. And so, yeah, it was kind of a blessing really to be able to go and see all of that stuff in the cinema. I remember my parents saying that the Beauty and the Beast VHS that we had got pretty well worn out with the number of times that it was rewatched in my household. So yeah, there was just a real run there of absolute classic films. There was definitely a period in my late teens, early 20s where I really sort of went, oh, cinema is not just something you can do as entertainment. It's something that is a career, and also it's got its own rich history, which is studied and written about academically, and there's a whole world that you can just dive into separately to that. But also the flip side of that, I think, was when I realised that I was quite happy just going to the cinema by myself. That then opened up this whole new world of film viewing, because suddenly you're not necessarily having a negotiation with other people about, oh, well, do you want to see this? No, I want to go and see that. And so there's always that slight triangle to navigate. Whereas if you're just like, no, I want to go and see this film and I'm going to go and see it regardless, then you sort of please yourself. I think there's something that sort of feels almost naughty about the idea of going to the cinema by yourself in the afternoon. It's like breaking a social taboo, but actually it's quite liberating in that respect. It just really sticks in your mind as you're in this world inside the auditorium, and then you come outside and you're like, oh no, life's been sort of carrying on outside. It's quite strange, but it's quite enjoyable as well. Even, if you're watching a film at home, it's impossible not to have your phone on the go or to have something up on the laptop, and your mind is just sort of elsewhere. Whereas in the cinema, just coming and sort of committing and saying, I'm going to spend the next 2 hours doing this, not do anything else, it really does make the experience more rewarding, I think.
The first time that you came into the building, were you aware of its incredibly rich history?
Honestly, not really, which is slightly embarrassing to say, but I think people don't hear about the history of Olympic Studios as much as perhaps they should do. And especially when people do come here and find out about it, they're sort of amazed that they haven't heard about it before. The thing that I always say to people is, oh, yeah, that record that you like that was recorded in the 60s, 70s, 80s, was it recorded at Abbey Road? No? Okay, then it was probably recorded at the Olympic. Just the laundry list of stars that recorded here. Rolling Stones, David Bowie, Eric Clapton, then U2, Adele. Pretty much every sort of important figure in British musical history over the last 50 years did spend some time recording an album here, which is really quite remarkable. And that's something that we hold quite close, that history. There isn't a direct link in the sense that at this moment in time, music is currently recorded here, but watch this space for that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, no spoilers. However, it's surprising considering that there's this huge audio output from the building, but in terms of like a visual output, artists, especially when they're in studio, tend to be a little bit secretive about, wanting photographs, no press, that sort of thing. I know that press did often used to sort of camp out downstairs, hoping they'd get a pap shot, but not that many were taken. And so the number of photographs of the building as it was, there really aren't that many. But one of the really nice things that we do have is just over the road, we have a vinyl shop, which has got a full catalogue of pretty much everything that was cut here at the studios.
Wow.
And the guys over there really, really know their stuff. Not only will they sell you a record, but they'll, walk you through who was playing bass on which track, and, they really know their stuff.
Challenge accepted. I've gotten hold of Roger from over the road to tell us a little bit more.
There's about 775 artists that recorded here, but it was always busy. There was never any advertising done. It was worked 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So it must have been a fantastic place, creative place to work. So we're trying to collect all 1,000 records, and the 1,000 keeps going up because we keep discovering more records that were recorded or mixed here. We've got 800 of the 1,000. We desperately need a place to display them, but we're hoping to build a new recording studio on the top floor, and that will give us the ability to display, curate the archive that we're gradually building.
Well, that's something to look forward to. Can you even imagine how much must have happened here?
The Beatles came over here because they heard the Rolling Stones were having too much fun, and they came over and recorded Baby You're a Rich Man. Paul McCartney thinks it's the best bass sound on any Beatles song. They also did the backing track for All You Need Is Love, and it was the worldwide transmission. That was very famous. Prince apparently came here for 2 weeks and recorded 4 tracks off Diamonds and Pearls, but actually what he really wanted to do was to master the art of making cupcakes. So he spent 2 weeks in the kitchen with one of the people that worked here, and he apparently did perfect his cupcake.
I'll bet you any money he put cream on top. Who else has been through here?
Yeah, I did have Richard Ashcroft from The Verve knock on the door about a year ago, and he said he couldn't come in at the moment, but he was going to pop back and sign some albums. I'm glad he didn't pop in because we didn't have any of his albums. But The Verve did their most urban hymns was recorded at the Olympic.
So with so much history, how do we think the future's looking?
When, cave paintings were invented, as it were, anyone was like, oh, but how am I going to make money doing that?
What's the future
Yeah,
of this?
exactly. Where does that go? Where does this lead? And then, you have the Van Gogh being sold at auction at Sotheby's for $100 million. But in terms of cinema specifically, I think that it evolves so much over time and the needs of the audience change. And so whether it's those early cinema houses that were just getting a chance to see the moving image on screen and the novelty of that. But then when we come up to the present day and what we've talked about the home video revolution, there are always these very sensational articles that come along every 6 months about, oh, cinema's dead because there's a new streaming platform or because there's a new disc technology or whatever it might be. But it's maintaining that intent for filmmakers, because filmmakers, for the most part, they make films to be consumed on a big screen with an audience of other people who are enjoying that experience with you. And so whether it's film festivals or digital platforms, I think that there is very much a culture of filmmaking which is now really established in wider culture. And also, now that there is a visibility around the world of cinema, it makes it that much easier to, for us to play a film here in London that was made in Beijing or made in Peru or wherever. Those barriers have come down, which is really wonderful because it enables a shared experience. The agenda is really just for us as the Olympic to be the best cinema that we can, and to offer that experience to everybody from wherever they come from and whatever type of feature they want to come and see. We try and cover all the corners.
Something for everyone.
Yeah, that's the idea.
And who knows, maybe the next new album you hear could be one in a long line of legends from the Olympic studio in Barnes.
I come from Italy. I moved here 6 years ago, and the cinema was the first place that I saw in Edinburgh that I went to. It, I think, shaped the way I feel about the city as well. It was the first place I felt sort of welcomed, and through the years I kept going, and it just became a habit. I don't know, for some reason the building itself felt welcoming, the environment, and the fact that you could go, and not do anything necessarily. You could also go not to go watch the film. You could sit on a side right, do something on your own. But obviously also the people. The first time I went was, again, it was literally one of my first days in Edinburgh. And I went with one of my classmates. I even remember the film we watched was this documentary. And yeah, I kept going with my classmates and with friends, and through the years, different people that, coming and going in Edinburgh and also my life. So it's always been a place where I shared moments with the most important people, I think, in my life.